Failures, take one. Let's try my hair. It's like 1,000 degrees outside. It's humid. I'm not sure at what point my hair became curly. I tried to straighten it, and it is trying its darndest to curl up, and now it's just like going on its own. I turned the air conditioner on so that maybe I would have like, some Beyonce breeze, happening. No, the only thing that happens with this is my hair gets stuck in my eyelashes. So fail. All right, but totally seriously now, let's talk failure. This is one that happened to me. This is going to be a bodybuilding example. This was failure, and I think more humiliation that came out of it. So just to set the story up, there was a lot of change which was happening in and around the year 2010. What happened was, this is a competing cycle. I did 3 shows pretty much like back to back. So I did one in April, I did one in the beginning of June, and then I did Junior Nationals like the 3rd week of June. So boom, boom, boom. The one in April, I actually won. The one in June, okay, which was, 5 weeks later, it was actually on my birthday, flew up there and was having a lot of problems with water retention. I always knew that I usually retain water after a flight, like my hands will get kind of puffy, and this may not be, important to you, but if you can just step into my shoes for a second. Contest prep, I started cutting for the show on January 1st. So by the time June 5th came around, we're talking that was like 5 solid months of like serious contest prep, and like you put your whole entire soul into this thing, and then when you add in the financial aspect of travel and lodging and contest fees, and there's like a heavy amount of time and like love and financial investment that goes into competing, especially out of state. And the goal again was always not just to be on stage. The goal is to win for that aspiration of attaining pro status. So won the contest in April, feeling pretty good, show up at this one in New York and was just freaking like smoked. Like the show in New York is held by it's held by Bev Francis, and like serious shit shows up there, man. Like you're like ready to go. But what happened was, not only did I have water retention from the flight, this was when I learned that I had a major problem with gluten. And what was happening was that morning of the show, and I couldn't get in touch with my coach who was back here in Chicago. It was like horrendous all over the place. It looked like I was pregnant. Like I was holding so much water, I couldn't see my ribs or any of my abdominals, like walking into the venue for the show. So I already knew that I was in trouble, and I did not use any kind of diuretics or dandelion to expel any of that water for that show. And so like there's really nothing you can do at that point. So we get called, to warm up, and that's usually when, you do your final touches on your hair and makeup, and you start using, weights or resistance bands to pump up before you go on show. And like we had a system, like it was, you do that, and then also eat a half of a oatmeal raisin cookie before you go on, and then that helps to actually like fill up your muscle bellies and you look tighter and leaner. Well, what actually happened was that cookie actually caused my abdominals to extend out even further, and I couldn't even see my shoes. I mean, could you imagine this? Like I was like a size 2-ish, and that's only because my legs had muscle on them. But to look like you're pregnant after all that time, and then have to go out on stage where you're wearing like, the equivalent of a bikini when we're out there, and then to add insult to injury was, I didn't know this, was the photographers from the major bodybuilding magazines were there. So not only did I have to show my face to the world, and I was competing in 2 different divisions there, twice. It was humiliating. I was the only person from Chicago, so even though there probably wasn't any attention on that, I felt like, man, I just brought the shittiest, I just repped Chicago like in the worst way possible. But then what happened like after the show, and I placed I don't know that there's an absolute last, like they stopped counting at the 16th contestant, so I was like 16th. What happened was those magazines, they started posting the pictures online. And I was getting texts from my friends back home like this: WTF happened to you? What do you look so shit? You're pregnant, blah, 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 blah. Like all that, it was, and they did it from a place of love because I won the show just a few weeks prior to. But I'm telling you, sometimes when you go down and you feel like you are hitting the absolute bottom, and then people kind of like, either knowingly, I don't think that anybody had any bad intentions when they were doing that. They just like, kick a sister down. It can make you feel like you are going down and you are going to absolutely stay there. And the pictures are actually still online. And that, for me, was more humiliating than anything else, because as I travel around, sometimes people, if I'm going to be training or teaching at a place, people will kind of do some investigative work on me before I show up, and then they'll always ask, we saw this picture of you, it must have been before you lost weight. And the answer is like, no, that's not actually what happened at all. And then you're trying to go back and explain. But I'm telling you, like, from the point of probably being a girl or, absolutely a competitor, you put all that effort in and you want to like put your best face forward all the time. And to have those pictures online, it was like rubbing salt in the wound, and it hurt so bad. 2 weeks after that, so I got back home, I snapped back on with my coach, and, we got things kind of under control. And then Junior Nationals came, and that was actually a 2-day show, and that was pretty miserable. We had a really bad rainstorm. It was hot. The power went out at the hotel, so there was no air conditioning, and all of us were all like laying around, making sure that our tan didn't melt off of us and all these things. It was horrible. Like, I looked like shit again. I felt like shit. I placed last again. I mean, it was just like a double, like, beat down. I'll tell you, when you get to those points, you have to be able to pull yourself out. It's never done alone. You will always have to somehow attach yourself onto somebody and then actively, get yourself out of that spot. But it can do a lot of just like bullshit inside of your head, where you just feel like, man, I've had back-to-back failures, I'm publicly humiliated, I'm not sure if I can ever, overcome this or, come out on top again, I'm not sure I'm ever going to survive, I don't think I ever want to show my face to the public. Like, nothing ever stays the same forever. And I think the cool thing that came out of that whole entire experience was I learned a lot. I learned, tracing back to the New York show, by the time I competed, I think it was like 18 months later, I knew that I had to fly into the town 2 days in advance to allow my body to assimilate and expel that water. So that was a positive. But actually, one of the things that happened during that time was I did my very first photo shoot. And that was so much fun in so many different ways. To have a physique photographer, capture the essence of how you look, and you think that you look so bad, but to have that evidence, if you will, that it wasn't probably as bad as I thought, was actually, like, in a weird way, a confidence booster, and it actually helped to keep, me engaged with that particular goal, and then to remember, why I had started, and to remember, the Perseverance Credo. And I tell this story all the time. The Perseverance Credo actually came from when a friend of mine, Jackie Nichols, and we, as nurses, took a traveling contract in New York. And we first lived in this apartment in Queens, and, it was like high ceilings, it was hardwood floor. Long story short, there's always roaches which live in, like, the apartment walls. And the guy who lived, I don't know, upstairs or downstairs from us, was having his bathroom remodeled. And as they started, like, blasting on the walls, all the roaches which were in the walls, they'd come out. Well, they came out in our apartment, like, everywhere. And if you have ever seen, there's a movie from like the 1980s, it was called Creepshow. Like there was major roach infestation. That's what our apartment looked like legit. So we have the exterminator come, they bomb fog the place. We return back to this apartment. This is getting back to the perseverance credo for you. And there's like all these dead roaches everywhere. Like they're upside down, like they're shrivelly little legs, like disgusting. And we may be ER nurses, and I know that I speak for Jackie. Like we can handle a lot of disgusting stuff. Like I remember one time we were, scraping maggots out of this one lady's bed sores all over the place, like no problem, like scooping brains back into people's skulls and, band-aiding them, and, people who have like rectal explosion, when it comes, like we have a very high threshold for disgusting. I'm itching all over the place now, but when it comes to certain bugs, like there's a limit, okay? So we had a plan, all right? I was going to be scraping the bugs into the garbage, and then Jackie and I would like antisepticize the whole entire place. So I shit you not, this is what happened. The roaches are dead. They're upside down, like on the countertop like this. I have a piece of cardboard, and I'm scraping this roach, and they're big, right? They're not even palmettos, but the roaches in New York are like freaking, like they've been around forever, and they're going to be around forever. I'm scraping this roach, and I shit you not, he flips over, he starts walking away. And, as a girl, I'm like, screaming, because that's a bug. Like, it's disgusting, okay? But once things settled down, and yes, we moved out of the apartment and all these things, I decided, you know what? I want to be like that freaking roach. Okay? Not like a gross germy bug. Like I want to have the resistance of a freaking roach. And that's how the Perseverance Credo actually came. Okay? So no matter what, you may be stronger than me, you may be faster than me, you may have resources which far outshine mine, but I will outlast you. So take that and run with that and use that as part of your own thing. Have the Perseverance Credo. So guess what happens? 18 months later, after that last show where I was like in last place, and everyone after that told me, Nick, do not get back on stage. You need to get your boobs done. You have too much fat on your ass. Your ass never changes. You will never be able to compete because you're natural, blah, 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 blah. You're, however old I was, 39 or 40. You're competing against 25-year-old girls. You are out of your league. Do not do it. Do not get on stage. You can train. You can be a bodybuilder if you want to, but just never get back on stage. That's what they said. And I called up a new coach, and it was never a question. It was never a question of can you do it. It was, here's the template. This is what you have to do in order to get here. Do it. And I did it. And what happened was, and this was more of a mental thing for me, was I went from last place at a national level show, okay, not to impress you, but to impress upon you, when you have that goal in your head and then you align yourself with the right people, okay, and the people maybe who know how to do the thing that you want to do, all of a sudden you do the freaking work 100%. I actually placed 9th in the nation. At the time, nationals, this was the biggest national show that they had to date. So for me to place 9th, okay, means I actually bumped 2 girls out of the top 10 spot. After the last show that I was at, I was last. Does that make sense? All right, persevere. Just remember, just reminds me like, I'm back, bitches! Back!